Welcome to another review from the Four Corners of the Board with your host, Graeme Anderson. Hello everyone, this is Graeme Anderson from Four Corners of the Board. Today, I'm going to be looking at Pandemic the Cure. This is the dice version of the game Pandemic, and I had high hopes for this. I do like Pandemic quite a bit. As you can see here from my shelf, I do have some expansions for the original Pandemic. I also am almost finished Pandemic Legacy Season 1, so I did have high hopes for a dice version of it. That being said, I did go into this kind of hesitantly because dice versions of games tend to let me down. I have not found one that I really enjoy. There are dice games I like, but dice versions of games I like tend to kind of fall a little short for me. So, will Pandemic the Cure break that trend? We'll see. Let's get to the table. I'll show you how it's played. Then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts on Pandemic the Cure. So, here we have Pandemic Cure set up for a 3-player game. We have 6 regions, which have some initial dice on them, and you'd start with 12, and I've only put out 10 because I want to show you the dice rolling mechanism at the end of the setup. You have the infection tracker, which shows you how many outbreaks there are and what your current infection rate is. If the outbreaks ever gets to 8, game's over. If the infection tracker gets past the end, the game is also over. You have the CDC, which during the infect regions phase, which I'll get into, there are going to be hopefully some dice put here, which will help you buy event cards. There are always 3 face-up event cards during the game, and you can use the dice from the CDC to activate these and take their special ability, discard them, and then draw a new one. You have the Cure Disease Tracker, which when you cure diseases, you're going to be putting the dice here to signify that you've cured them, and the goal of the game is to cure all 4 diseases. And then each character is given a character card, which will show you the special abilities that they have, and they will also show you all the die faces that you have on each custom die for that character. So everybody starts with 5 dice, well, except for the generalist who starts with 7, but everyone else starts with 5 dice, and then we'll show you what all your dice faces are, which are the actions you can take during your turn, which I'll get into when I talk about gameplay. Each player also has a player pawn, and those player pawns will start in Region 1. So as I mentioned before, at the start of the game, you're going to be drawing 12 dice and rolling them and placing them on the regions. So I've done 10 dice so far, so I'm going to draw another 2 dice. So we've got 2 blacks, and you are going to roll them. So here I've rolled 2 3s. At the beginning of the game, you can never have more than 3 dice of one color in a region. So since I've already got 3 here, I'm going to take this last black die and re-roll it. If you ever roll a plus symbol, you have to re-roll at the beginning of the game. During the infect regions phase, you want the pluses because they're advantage to you, but during the initial setup, we need to place 12 dice on the regions. So I can't use the 3, but I can use the 5. So there we go. So now we are ready to play. So let's go through the player actions. The player actions are all dependent on your dice. So let's say it's the light brown player's turn, the containment specialist. I'm going to roll these dice, and these are the actions I'm allowed to take. As long as I have not locked a die, I can re-roll my dice. So if I didn't like any of these, I could re-roll them all. But let's go through the actions I can take with my die. So the first of all, you have the plane icon. Plane icon means I can fly my character from its region to any other region on the board. The boat symbol, like that, allows me to move my pawn to any adjacent region. The syringe symbol allows me to treat one of the dice in my region. So what does that mean? It means you're either going to take a die from your region and put it in the treatment center, or from the treatment center back into the bag. If there are ever any time when you need to draw a dice or there's not enough dice in the dice bag, the game is also over. So the syringe is either from region to treatment center back into bag. The collect sample icon allows you to take one of the dice from the treatment center and lock it onto your character card. So let's say I first used my syringe, and I'm going to move that from there to there. I could then use my collect sample to lock that and place it on my character card. Now this action die for me is now locked until either I give this die to someone else or the cure is found. Otherwise, I basically down 1 action die. And then on this person's card, the last is a special character ability, which is described on your card. Some other people have multi-dice, or multi-faceted dice. So here, for example, you can either do the syringe or boat action with that action. If you ever roll the biohazard, which is bad, you are going to be moving the infection rate up one spot. If you ever cross one of these green lines on the infection rate disk, let's say we moved it here, as soon as you do that, an epidemic happens. In an epidemic, you're going to be taking all the dice from the treatment center. You're going to be taking whatever your current infection rate is. So right here it says there's 3. And you're going to take them and you're going to roll them. So let's say something happens, so we roll them and then we add them again to the regions on the board. So I rolled a 6, a 5, and a 4. So that's what happens when an epidemic happens. The last two things you can do in your turn is one is give a die to someone else who's in your region. Now, because I have all 3 characters here, and I have locked a die here, I can actually free up that die, put it back into my pool, and give this to someone else in my region. It stays on their character card. The last thing you can do is you can try and find a cure. To do that, you're going to take all the dice from the active character, whose ever turn it is. You're going to take all those dice and you're going to roll them. Now, on one die, I'm not going to find a cure because you're looking to get 13 or more on your die roll. So let's just say a couple turns in, we now have 3 blue die on the contingency planner, the blue pairs. It's his turn. They've locked all of their action dice, and they are going to try and find a cure. So we roll 12. We didn't roll enough, which is fine. It just means that you fail to find a cure, but nothing bad happens except you haven't found the cure. You don't lose any dice. But let's just say we had rolled a 15. Yay, we found a cure. What's going to happen is I'm going to take one of these dice and put it on the blue square here to show that we have now cured blue. I'm going to return these 2 blue dice from my character card back into the bag. Any blue dice that were here go back into the bag, and any other blue dice on someone else's character also go back in the bag. This does not stop blue dice from being pulled and placed. What it means is it's now easier to cure blue. So let's say, for example, that we had 3 blue dice here, and we had this character here, and he decides to use the syringe action, so the treat disease action. If they treat blue, they can move all 3 blue into the treatment center for 1 action die. And only because we have cured blue. And again, if they used another syringe, another treat disease, they can move all the blues from the treatment area back into the bag. So that's what happens when you cure disease. And the goal is to get all 4 diseases cured. Once you've done all your actions, including your 2 optional actions at the end, which was trade and try and find a cure, you are now going to infect regions. Infect regions means you're going to be looking at your current infection rate, and we'll show you how many dice you want to pull. So we're in a heroic now, which means we're going to be drawing 3. We're not going to be touching anything in the treatment center. This is just coming from the bag. And you're going to take 3 dice. Let's see, so I have 2 blues and a black, and you're going to roll them. And again, you're going to be placed them on the regions like this. If we had rolled a plus on any of the during this infect regions phase, so we've rolled a plus, that's going to go to the CDC. Whatever dice are in the CDC are going to stay there until they're used. And they're going to be used to buy one of these event cards. So we can see these 3 event cards here. They will show you the cost. So the cost will show you the number of pluses. That's how many dice you have to take from the CDC and put back in the bag. Then you're going to perform the bottom action here, discard the card, and draw a new one, so there's always 3 face up. So I have a plus here. Let's say I could do this one, put that back in the bag, take the action, discard the card, and draw a new event. So now we have something that costs 2 and 2 that costs 3. And generally, the higher the cost, the better the card is. If you ever, let's see, I'm just going to grab a black die here and show you what happens when you know what, there's lots of blue in my hand. Let's say we have this and we're doing the infect region phase, and I roll this blue die and it becomes a 6. A region can never have more than 3 dice of one color in the region. So here we have 4. You wait until all the dice have been rolled from the infect region and look for epidemics. And you start from 1 and you move the way around. So we come to 6. Oh, there's 4 blue dice here. We caused an outbreak, which means we move the outbreak checker once. And you basically have to reduce this region back down to 3 blue. So I'm going to take this fourth blue, and you move it always in a clockwise position. Then you're going to make sure that there's no further outbreaks. If there was, let's say there were already 3 here, and we've just moved the fourth one from here to here, now there's 4 blue here. That will cause another outbreak. And you're going to take one, again, you're going to reduce this down to 3, so you're going to move that one to there. And you keep on going that until there are no more outbreaks. And again, if you ever get to 8 outbreaks, the game is over. If the infect region marker gets past here by rolling the biohazard symbols on your turn, you're going to lose. If there's no dice left in the dice bag to do the infect region or epidemic, you lose. And you win if you can find the 4 cures. Anyway, that's how you play Pandemic the Cure. Let's get back, and I'll tell you what I think about the game. So, did Pandemic the Cure finally break that trend? Well, no, the trend continues. I still did not enjoy Pandemic the Cure. And it all comes down to me for the randomness of the dice. And I'll give you an example. One of the early games I played, and this may have, colored my view of Pandemic the Cure. Everybody who rolled the dice, well, just about everybody who rolled the dice ended up rolling 1 or 2 biohazard symbols. And that infection rate soon scooted off to the end, and there's nothing we could do. We didn't find any cures, we didn't clear off any regions. It just felt as if this time was marching on, and it was done in, a couple rounds, and I just didn't find that enjoyable. The last game I played of this, I think we rolled 3 or 4 biohazard symbols the entire game, and we found all 4 cures with no problem. So it really comes down to that randomness of the dice. And I know people are going to say, but that's what makes a dice game exciting, is that you don't know what you're going to roll. For me, I'm not a big fan of that. And I think that's my fundamental problem, is I just have a problem with deeper strategy games, which this is. It's not a hugely deep strategy game, but it's more in-depth than something like Zombie Dice or Martian Dice, when you're just kind of rolling dice for fun. I just had a problem with that randomness of the dice. And I know some people really enjoy this, and there is a lot to enjoy in this game. The characters I really enjoyed. The event cards are fundamental to this game, that you can't ignore them. You can't ignore the special abilities on your characters' cards. I like the drawing of the dice from the bag and, laying them out in the different regions. I like the way the outbreaks. It's a very simple, clean game, just like the original. And it gives you the feeling of the original. I just didn't like it. Now, that being said, I know there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me, and I know there's a lot of people that really enjoy this game. And if you have not tried this game, I would encourage you to try it. It does give you the feeling of Pandemic, so if you like Pandemic, this is one to try. If you like dice games, this one is a little more in-depth than your typical dice game, so you might enjoy that. But for me, it just fell flat. So I'm going to have to give Pandemic the Cure a pass, but with a caveat, I think you should try it for yourself, because it's not a terrible game, it just doesn't work for me. Anyway, until next time, this is Graeme Anderson from Four Corners of the Board.
Thank you for watching another review from the Four Corners of the Board. Please like and subscribe to these videos. You can also follow us on social media, email us directly, or check out our website at fourcornersoftheboard.com.